The Galactic Council chambers floated in the void between stars, a massive station where thousands of species gathered to discuss trade, war, and peace. Today the chamber buzzed with unusual excitement. Ambassador Kelthrin of the Vaxxer Empire stood at the central podium, his 4 eyes gleaming with triumph. "The humans are gone," he announced, his voice carrying through translation devices to every corner of the vast hall. "Earth has vanished." Murmurs rippled through the assembled delegates. The Zephyr representatives, bird-like creatures with iridescent feathers, clicked their beaks in confusion. The massive Kron warriors, towering 8 feet tall with skin like stone, leaned forward in their seats. Even the ethereal Luminar, beings of pure energy contained in crystal suits, pulsed with curiosity. "Explain," demanded High Chancellor Vorith, a reptilian saurian whose species had dominated galactic politics for 10,000 years. His green scales reflected the holographic displays that surrounded them. Kelthrin activated a star map. Where Earth's sun should have been, there was only empty space. The entire solar system had disappeared, leaving not even debris behind. 3 cycles ago, we lost all contact with the human homeworld, Kelthrin continued. Our scout ships found nothing. No planets, no asteroids, no sun. Just void. The humans and their primitive civilization are extinct. The hall erupted in discussion. Humans had been a recent addition to the galactic community, having achieved faster-than-light travel only 50 years prior. They were considered young, reckless, and technologically inferior. Most species viewed them as amusing curiosities, too emotional and irrational to pose any real threat or contribution. "Good riddance," muttered Ambassador Drex of the Kron Dominion. They refused to follow proper protocols. Always questioning, always demanding explanations. Barbaric creatures. "They were fascinating test subjects," added Dr. Xyloth, a Vaxxer scientist. "Their biology was remarkably adaptable. We learned much from the specimens we collected." High Chancellor Vorith raised a clawed hand for silence. "The matter is settled. We will mark Earth's territory as unclaimed space. Any species may colonize the surrounding sectors. This session is adjourned." The delegates filed out, already planning how to divide the resources of the space once occupied by humanity. None of them noticed the small anomaly in the star map, a barely detectable energy signature that pulsed once, then vanished. Far beyond the council station, beyond the mapped regions of the galaxy, a fleet of ships hung in the darkness. They were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Sleek, angular vessels that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Their surfaces rippled with exotic energy patterns that defied conventional physics. On the bridge of the largest vessel, the Prometheus, Captain Sarah Chin stood before a massive viewscreen. Her uniform was black and silver, bearing insignia that represented not just Earth but something greater, the United Human Collective. "Analysis complete, Captain," reported Commander Yuki Tanaka from the tactical station. His fingers danced across holographic controls. "The Council just declared us extinct. They're already dividing our territory." Sarah's jaw tightened. Beside her, Admiral Marcus Stone, Supreme Commander of the human fleet, placed a weathered hand on the railing. He was 70 years old by the old calendar, but the life extension treatments made him look 40. His eyes held the weight of 1,000 years of history. "They think we're primitive," Stone said quietly. "They think we disappeared by accident." "They never understood," Sarah replied. "They saw our emotions as weakness. Our questions as ignorance. Our adaptability as desperation." "How long were we gone by their counting?" Stone asked. 1,000 years, sir," answered Lieutenant James Park from the navigation console. "Relativistic time dilation. For them, a millennium has passed. For us, it's been 50 years since we entered the void." Stone nodded slowly. 50 years ago, humanity had made a choice. When the great powers of the galaxy had begun to see Earth as a resource to exploit, when aliens had started abducting humans for experiments, when the Council had dismissed every human complaint and demand for justice, humanity had chosen to disappear. The greatest minds of Earth had united to create the Void Drive, a technology that could shift an entire solar system into a pocket dimension outside normal spacetime. While the galaxy moved forward 1,000 years, humanity had spent 5 decades in isolation, building, learning, and evolving. "Begin Phase 1, Stone commanded. "It's time to come home." Sarah smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. "Initiating emergence protocol. Let's show the galaxy what we've become." The ships of the human fleet began to glow. Space itself trembled. Across the galaxy, on 1,000 worlds, sensors detected impossible readings. Something vast and powerful was tearing through the fabric of reality. Humanity was returning. And the galaxy would never be the same. The Border Patrol Station orbited a gas giant in what had been human space. Commander Vexel of the Vaxxer Empire watched his screens with casual disinterest. This was a boring assignment, monitoring empty space for pirates or unauthorized mining operations. "Commander," his sensor officer called out. "I'm detecting an anomaly. Multiple signatures emerging from subspace. Pattern unknown." Vexel's mandibles clicked in irritation. "Probably just a solar flare reflection. Recalibrate your equipment." "Sir, the readings are increasing. Energy signatures are off the scale. I'm counting 10, no 50, sir, there are hundreds of them." Vexel rushed to the sensor station. His blood ran cold. The view screen filled with ships, massive, alien vessels that materialized from nowhere. They were arranged in perfect formation, a fleet that dwarfed anything he had ever seen. "Get me the capital. Emergency channel." Vexel's voice cracked with panic. Before the communications officer could respond, every system on the station went dark. Then, slowly they came back online. But now, a single image filled the main view screen, a woman's face. "Human. Vaxxer Patrol Station," Captain Sarachin said calmly. "You are occupying human territory. You have 30 minutes to evacuate. This is your only warning." Vexel found his voice. "Human? Impossible. Your species is extinct. You have no authority here." Sarah's expression didn't change. 29 minutes. "You dare threaten the Vaxxer Empire? We will crush you. I'm calling our battle fleet right now." 28 minutes, Sarah replied. "I suggest you use them wisely." The transmission ended. Vexel stared at the blank screen, his 4 eyes wide with shock. Then training took over. "Send distress signal. Full military alert. Get me Admiral Krethix immediately." 30 light-years away, the Vaxxer battle fleet received the emergency transmission. Admiral Krethix, a veteran of 100 campaigns, reviewed the data with growing disbelief. "Humans? The primitive apes who had disappeared 1,000 years ago? Prepare the fleet," he ordered. "We'll show these returned vermin what true power looks like. If any survived, we'll finish the job our ancestors should have completed." 200 Vaxxer warships, each 3 kilometers long, armed with plasma cannons and quantum torpedoes, jumped to faster-than-light speed. They would arrive in hours. Back at the patrol station, Vexel watched the countdown with defiant satisfaction. When the 30 minutes expired, nothing happened. He laughed, relief flooding through him. They were bluffing. Stupid humans thinking they could intimidate the Vaxxer. The station shook violently. Alarms screamed. On the view screen, 3 human ships glided into view. They were smaller than Vaxxer cruisers, but they moved with predatory grace. "Target the nearest human vessel," Vexel commanded. "Fire all weapons." The station's plasma batteries unleashed their fury. Bright lances of energy crossed the void, enough firepower to vaporize a moon. The beam struck the lead human ship and stopped. They simply stopped, frozen in mid-space, as if the ship was wrapped in an invisible shield of impossible strength. What is that?" whispered the tactical officer. The human ship's surface rippled. The plasma beams reversed direction, accelerating back toward the station at 10 times their original speed. The patrol station's shields collapsed instantly. Explosions ripped through the hull. "Abandoned station. Evacuate," Vexel screamed. Escape pods launched in every direction. The human ships made no move to stop them. As Vexel's pod tumbled through space, he watched his station break apart, not from weapons fire but from surgical precision. The humans were dismantling it piece by piece with some kind of matter manipulation technology. "This is impossible," Vexel muttered. 1,000 years? What did they become? Hours later, Admiral Krethix's fleet emerged from FTL at the border of human space. Sensors immediately detected the debris field where the patrol station had been. They also detected the human fleet, waiting. Krethix studied the tactical display. 200 Vaxxer warships against what appeared to be 70 human vessels. The numbers favored the Vaxxer significantly. "All ships, battle formation," Krethix commanded. "Prepare to fire on my mark. Show these humans why the Vaxxer Empire rules this sector." On the bridge of the Prometheus, Admiral Stone watched the Vaxxer fleet arrange itself into an offensive pattern. It was textbook Vaxxer tactics. Overwhelming firepower, minimal finesse. "They haven't changed at all," Stone observed. 8,000 years and they learned nothing. "Shall we engage, sir?" Sarah asked. "Not yet. Open a channel." Stone's weathered face appeared on every Vaxxer ship's view screen. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of authority but also something else, pity. I am Admiral Marcus Stone of the United Human Collective. You are outmatched. Withdraw now and no harm will come to you. This is not arrogance. This is mercy. Admiral Krethix's mandibles spread in what passed for a Vaxxer sneer. You speak of mercy? You are outnumbered 3-1. Surrender, and perhaps we will allow some of you to survive as slaves. Stone sighed. Very well. You were warned. He nodded to Sarah. Captain Chen, you may begin. Sarah's smile was cold as space itself. Gladly, Admiral. All ships, she broadcast. Weapons free. Show them what we learned in the dark. Admiral Krethix watched his tactical display with absolute confidence. 200 of the most powerful warships in the Vaxxer Empire against 70 human vessels of unknown capability. The outcome seemed certain. All ships fire. Krethix commanded. The void lit up with destruction. Thousands of plasma torpedoes and quantum missiles streaked toward the human fleet. The barrage was enough to sterilize a planet. Krethix leaned forward, anticipating the beautiful explosions of human ships dying. Instead, reality itself seemed to bend. The human ships shimmered, and the incoming weapons simply passed through them as if they weren't there. Then the ships solidified again, completely unharmed. What? Impossible. Sensors report. Krethix's voice rose in pitch. Sir, they're phasing in and out of normal space. Micro-jumps at millisecond intervals. Our weapons can't track them. Before Krethix could respond, the human fleet moved. They didn't accelerate, they just moved, appearing in entirely different positions instantaneously. One moment they were clustered together, the next they were scattered throughout the Vaxxer formation. They're among us. Evasive maneuvers. Krethix shouted. The human ship Artemis, commanded by Captain Kenji Yamamoto, materialized directly above a Vaxxer dreadnought. Where traditional weapons would have fired, something different happened. The Artemis emitted a pulse of silver light. Inside the Vaxxer dreadnought, every system simultaneously failed. Lights died. Life support stopped. Weapons went offline. The massive warship became a floating coffin in seconds. Report from the Destroyer of Hope. Krethix's communications officer called out. All systems dead. They're requesting immediate rescue. Sir, the Vengeance's fury is also down. And the Eternal Victory. They're disabling our ships without firing a shot. Across the battlefield, 20 Vaxxer warships went dark in the space of 30 seconds. The human vessels moved like ghosts, each pulse of silver light claiming another victim. Krethix's hands trembled over his command console. This wasn't a battle. This was a demonstration. Fall back. All ships retreat, he ordered. But the human fleet was faster. They appeared in front of the retreating Vaxxer ships, blocking their escape vectors. Admiral Stone's voice filled Krethix's bridge once more. I told you that you were outmatched, Stone said calmly. Your crews are unharmed. Your ships can be repaired. But you need to understand something fundamental. You are alive right now because we choose to let you live. On the view screen, a single human ship, the Prometheus, began to glow. Energy gathered around it, building to impossible levels. The space around the ship distorted, stars bending in its gravitational well. What you're about to see, Stone continued, is 1% of our capability. Watch carefully. The Prometheus released its stored energy. A beam of pure white light shot forward, past the Vaxxer fleet, into the empty void beyond. It struck an uninhabited moon orbiting a distant planet, a dead rock 3,000 kilometers in diameter. The moon didn't explode. It simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, the next it had been converted to its component atoms, scattered across space as harmless dust. Every sensor on every Vaxxer ship registered the same impossible reading. The energy required for that attack exceeded the total power generation of the entire Vaxxer Empire. Krethix collapsed into his command chair. His mandibles trembled. His 4 eyes couldn't look away from the dissipating cloud that had been a moon. This is what we became, Stone said softly, while you thought we were gone. We didn't hide because we were afraid. We left because we needed time to evolve beyond your comprehension. We learned to manipulate matter at the quantum level. We learned to step outside spacetime itself. We cracked the fundamental code of reality. Why? Krethix whispered. Why didn't you destroy us? Because that's not who we are, Sarah Chen's voice joined the transmission. We're not conquerors. We don't want an empire. We just want what was stolen from us. Our home, our dignity, and a guarantee that no species will ever again treat humanity as specimens to be studied or slaves to be exploited. Stone stood, his image filling the screen. Return to your empire, Admiral. Tell your leaders what you witnessed here. Tell the Galactic Council. Humanity has returned, and we will not be dismissed or underestimated again. We don't seek war, but we will end any war brought to us. Instantly. Completely. Without mercy. Your ships will be released in 1 hour, Sarah added. You have that time to consider whether you want peace or extinction. Choose wisely. The transmission ended. Slowly, power returned to the disabled Vaxxer ships. Krethix sat in stunned silence, staring at the empty space where a moon had existed minutes before. Around him, his crew was equally silent. They had come here as conquerors. They would return as messengers, carrying a warning to the galaxy. Humanity was no longer prey. They were the apex predators. And they had come home. In the shadows of his own bridge, Krethix pulled up the historical records of humanity. He read about their wars, their resilience, their stubborn refusal to surrender even when facing extinction. He read about how they turned impossible odds into victory through adaptation and innovation. We should have been more afraid, he said to no one in particular. 8,000 years ago we should have welcomed them as equals. Or left them alone entirely. His tactical officer turned to him. What do we tell the Emperor? Krethix looked at the data recordings of the battle, if it could even be called that. The truth. And then we pray they accept humanity's terms. Because if they don't. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened within hours of Admiral Krethix's report reaching the Vaxxer capital. Representatives from 47 major civilizations gathered in the chamber, their holographic presences filling the vast hall. The atmosphere was tense, crackling with fear and disbelief. High Chancellor Vorith, his green scales now dull with stress, addressed the assembly. We have reviewed the battle recordings provided by the Vaxxer Empire. The situation is unprecedented. The holographic display showed the engagement, Vaxxer ships being disabled with ease, the moon being erased from existence. Gasps and shocked murmurs filled the chamber. Ambassador Drex of the Kron Dominion, whose species prided themselves on their military might, slammed his massive fist on the console. This must be a trick. Some kind of illusion. Humans were barely capable of fusion drives 50 years ago. 8,000 years ago from their perspective, corrected Professor Linera, a luminar scientist whose crystalline form pulsed with agitated light. Though it appears that only 50 years passed for them. They existed in some kind of temporal pocket dimension while we continued forward. Impossible. Drex roared. No species has that technology. The humans do, Vorith said quietly. The question now is, what do we do about it? Destroy them, shouted Ambassador Kelthrin, who had first announced humanity's disappearance. Gather the combined fleets of every major power. They cannot stand against the entire galaxy. Can't they? A new voice interjected. Every head turned toward the entrance. Standing there, in physical form rather than hologram, was Ambassador Elena Rodriguez. She was human, wearing a sleek black uniform with silver insignia. She walked calmly into the chamber, her footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. This is outrageous. Vorith rose from his seat. Humans have no seat on this council. You were declared extinct. Guards, remove her. The security drones moved toward Elena, but she simply raised her hand. The drones froze in midair, their systems locked. She lowered her hand and they clattered to the floor, deactivated. I'm here, Elena said calmly, because humanity wishes to speak. You will listen. She walked to the center podium, ignoring the protests and threats from various ambassadors. When she spoke, her voice carried authority that made even the ancient Saurian chancellor hesitate. 1,000 years ago, by your counting, you treated humans as an inferior species. You abducted our people for experiments. You dismissed our concerns. You mocked our questions and emotions. You saw us as primitive apes stumbling into a galaxy we didn't deserve. You were primitive. Kelthrin interrupted. You had barely achieved faster-than-light travel. You knew nothing of galactic civilization. Elena's eyes fixed on him with an intensity that made the Vaxxer ambassador step back. We were young. Not primitive. Young. And instead of mentoring us, guiding us, treating us as equals with potential, you exploited us. So you hid, said Drex with contempt. You ran away like cowards. We removed ourselves from a toxic situation, Elena corrected. We took our entire solar system and stepped outside of normal spacetime. We created a pocket universe where we could develop without interference, without predators looking to exploit us. The chamber erupted in chaos. Voices shouted in dozens of languages. Elena waited for the noise to die down before continuing. In that pocket dimension, time moved differently. For you, 1,000 years passed. For us, it was 50 years. But they were 50 years of focused development. Every human scientist, engineer, and theorist working toward a single goal, ensuring that when we returned, no one would ever treat humanity as lesser again. You're threatening the entire Galactic Council, Vorith declared. No, Elena said firmly. We're establishing boundaries. Humanity wants peace. We want trade, cultural exchange, scientific cooperation. But we will have it as equals or we will have it alone. Those are the only options. You think your fancy weapons make you superior? Kelthrin sneered. The Vaxxer Empire has battled for 10,000 years. We know war in ways you cannot imagine. Elena smiled sadly. We know war too. We fought each other for millennia before we ever reached the stars. We know cruelty, hatred, and violence intimately. But we also learned something during those dark centuries, that our greatest strength isn't our weapons or technology. It's our ability to change, to adapt, to become better than we were. She activated a holographic display showing Earth, not as it was 1,000 years ago but as it was now. A planet wrapped in shimmering energy fields, surrounded by orbital structures that dwarfed anything in the galaxy. This is our home, Elena said. We've rebuilt it beyond your comprehension. Our cities exist in multiple dimensions. Our power generation taps directly into quantum vacuum energy. Our ships can phase through solid matter, manipulate time itself, and rewrite the laws of physics in localized areas. Then why haven't you conquered the galaxy? Demanded the representative from the Hive Collective, an insectoid species known for their expansionist policies. Because, Elena replied, her voice heavy with meaning, we learned that strength without wisdom is tyranny. We learned that just because you can dominate doesn't mean you should. We left Earth to escape being victims. We didn't return to become oppressors. The chamber fell silent. Elena looked around at the assembled species, seeing fear, confusion, and in some faces, perhaps the beginning of understanding. Humanity proposes a new covenant, she announced. We will share some of our knowledge with the galaxy. Medical technology that can extend lifespans. Agricultural methods that can end hunger. Clean energy that doesn't poison worlds. We offer this freely as a gesture of goodwill. In exchange for what? Vorith asked suspiciously. Recognition, Elena said simply. Respect. And a promise that no species in this galaxy will ever again treat another as property, as specimens, or as slaves. We propose a reformation of the Galactic Council, one where every species, regardless of age or power, has an equal voice. That's preposterous, Drex shouted. The strong rule. That's the way of the universe. Elena turned to him. Is it? Or is that just what the strong tell themselves to justify their cruelty? The debate raged for hours. Species divided into factions. Some, like the peaceful Zephyr and the contemplative Luminar, saw wisdom in humanity's proposal. Others, like the Kron Dominion and the Vaxxer Empire, saw only a threat to the established order. Finally, High Chancellor Vorith called for a vote. The Galactic Council will decide. Do we accept humanity's terms and recognize them as equals with full council privileges, or do we reject their ultimatum? The vote was close. 24 species voted in favor. 23 voted against. The chamber held its breath. Vorith's voice was heavy. The motion fails. A two-thirds majority is required for such fundamental changes to council structure. Humanity's application for membership is denied. Elena stood quietly, her expression unreadable. I see. And what of humanity's other demands? The prohibition against slavery and exploitation. Those are already covered under existing council guidelines, Vorith said carefully. Guidelines you ignored when it came to humans, Elena pointed out. Guidelines you selectively enforce based on a species' military power. This council has stood for 50,000 years. Vorith's voice rose. We will not be dictated to by newcomers, no matter their technology. Elena nodded slowly. Then humanity officially withdraws from all galactic treaties and agreements. Earth's territory as it existed 1,000 years ago, is now a closed border. Any ship that enters human space without explicit permission will be disabled and its crew returned. Any act of aggression will be met with immediate and overwhelming response. You're declaring isolation? Asked Professor Linera, her crystalline form dimming with disappointment. We're protecting ourselves, Elena corrected. But our offer stands for individual species. Any civilization that wishes peaceful relations with humanity may approach us directly. We'll negotiate bilateral agreements outside this council's authority. That undermines the entire council structure. Vorith protested. Yes, Elena agreed. Perhaps it's time for that structure to be re-examined. Or perhaps it should fall entirely. She turned and walked toward the exit. As she reached the doorway, Ambassador Kelthrin called out, "You're making enemies human. The Vaxxer Empire will not forget this insult." Elena paused and looked back. Ambassador, your empire enslaved 3 species in the last century alone. You've conducted biological experiments on sentient beings without consent. You've strip-mined worlds without regard for native ecosystems. And you speak to me of insults? Kelthrin's mandibles clicked in rage, but he had no response. Elena's final words echoed through the chamber. Humanity remembers everything that was done to us. Every abduction. Every dismissive comment. Every time we begged for justice and were ignored. We remember. And we will ensure it never happens again, to us or to anyone else. She left. The chamber erupted in chaos once more. In the Kron Dominion's military headquarters, war drums beat. General Kraxus, supreme commander of the Kron battle fleets, addressed his officers with fury in his voice. The humans mock us. They threaten the natural order. For 50,000 years, the strong have ruled and the weak have served. We will not allow these upstart apes to change that. His officers roared approval, beating their armored chests. Gather the full might of the Kron war machine, Kraxus commanded. 5,000 warships. Our most powerful weapons. We will crush Earth and scatter humanity across the void as a warning to any who dare challenge the old ways. The Kron fleet began to mobilize. News spread quickly through the galaxy. The Vaxxer Empire, nursing their wounded pride, pledged support. The Hive Collective, seeing an opportunity to expand, added their vessels. Within days, a coalition armada of 8,000 warships gathered at the edge of human space. It was the largest military force assembled in galactic history. On Earth, in the command center buried deep beneath the rebuilt Rocky Mountains, Admiral Stone watched the gathering storm on holographic displays. Around him, humanity's military leadership studied the coalition fleet. 8,000 ships, Commander Tanaka said quietly. Every major military power except the Luminar and Zephyr. They're betting everything on this confrontation, observed Captain Chin. If they win, humanity is finished. If they lose, the Council will never recover, Stone finished. The old order will collapse. Can we defeat them? Asked General Maria Santos, commander of Earth's ground forces. Stone looked at her steadily. Yes, but the question isn't whether we can. It's whether we should. Admiral? Sarah looked confused. If we destroy that fleet, Stone explained, we kill millions of beings. We become the very monsters they fear we are. We prove that might makes right. But if we don't fight, Tanaka countered, they'll see it as weakness. They'll attack anyway and more will die. Stone nodded. Which is why we won't destroy them. We're going to do something far more devastating. He smiled grimly. We're going to show them mercy they don't deserve. We're going to embarrass them so thoroughly, so completely, that they'll have no choice but to question everything they believe about power and strength. How? Sarah asked. By taking away their weapons without firing a single shot, Stone replied. By proving that we could annihilate them at any moment but choose not to. We're going to force them to confront the fact that their lives continue only because we allow it. He activated the fleet-wide communication system. All human vessels, this is Admiral Stone. Prepare for Operation Mercy. We're about to teach the galaxy what true power looks like. The Coalition Armada crossed into human space with banners flying. 8,000 warships, representing the combined might of the galaxy's most powerful military civilizations. General Kraxus stood on the bridge of his flagship, the inevitable victory, watching Earth grow larger on his view screens. Sensors detect no defensive formations, his tactical officer reported. Minimal orbital activity. It's as if they're not even preparing to defend themselves. Arrogance, Kraxus growled. They think their tricks will save them. Today they learn that numbers and firepower still matter. But as the fleet advanced deeper into the solar system, something strange began to happen. One by one, weapons systems across the entire armada began to deactivate. Not fail, deactivate. Plasma cannons powered down. Missile bays locked shut. Quantum torpedo tubes sealed themselves. What's happening? Kraxus demanded. Tactical report. Sir, our weapons they're dismantling themselves. At the molecular level, the plasma cores are becoming inert. The warheads are turning into harmless composite materials. Override it. Manual controls. There are no malfunctions to override. The weapons are being rewritten at the atomic level. Across 8,000 warships, the same phenomenon occurred. In less than 10 minutes, the most powerful military fleet ever assembled became entirely unarmed. Not damaged, not disabled. Simply disarmed. Then the human fleet appeared. They didn't come from any single direction. They materialized throughout the coalition formation, hundreds of sleek vessels phasing into normal space between the now weaponless warships. The Prometheus appeared directly in front of the inevitable victory, so close that Craxus could see its bridge through his view screen. Admiral Stone's face filled every display in the coalition fleet. "Your weapons are gone," Stone announced calmly. "Converted to inert matter. Your ships are intact. Your crews are unharmed. Your life support systems function perfectly. But you are no longer a threat." "Impossible," Craxus roared. "You can't, no technology can." "We can rewrite matter itself," Stone interrupted. "We can reach into your ships through dimensional barriers and change the fundamental structure of your weapons. We did this simultaneously across 8,000 vessels while you were still millions of kilometers away." The weight of that statement settled over the coalition fleet like a death shroud. If humans could reach inside their ships and rewrite matter, they could just as easily convert the ships themselves to dust. Or convert the crews to something else entirely. "You came here to conquer us," Stone continued. "To destroy us. To enforce the galaxy's old order where the strong dominate the weak. You brought overwhelming force. You brought righteous fury. You brought the largest armada in galactic history." He paused, letting the silence stretch. "And now you're going to limp home, unarmed and humiliated, with a message for the entire galaxy." Sarah Chen's image appeared beside Stone's. "Every species in your coalition will receive complete schematics for the technology we use today. You'll study it. You'll realize that we could have killed you all instantly. We could have erased your fleets from existence the same way we erased that moon. But we didn't," Stone said softly. "Because humans learned something during our 1,000 years of galactic absence. We learned that the ability to destroy is not the same as the right to destroy. We learned that true strength is choosing mercy when you could choose annihilation." "You're weak," Craxus spat, though his voice trembled. "You hide behind philosophy because you fear the consequences of real war." "No," Elena Rodriguez's voice joined the transmission. She appeared on the view screen as well, flanked by other human ambassadors. "We fear what we could become. We've walked that dark path before on Earth when we fought among ourselves. We nearly destroyed our own world through hatred and fear. We learned at terrible cost that peace is not weakness. It's the hardest choice of all." Admiral Stone stood, his weathered face filled with an expression that mixed pity and determination. "You have two choices, General Craxus. One, accept our offer of peace. Recognize humanity as equals. Work with us to reform the Galactic Council into something better, something that protects all species, not just the powerful." "And the second choice?" Craxus asked, though he already knew he had no real alternatives. "You continue as you were," Stone replied. "And every time you threaten a weaker species, every time you engage in exploitation or conquest, humanity will intervene. We'll disarm your fleets. We'll disable your weapons. We'll defend those who cannot defend themselves. We'll become the galaxy's conscience, whether you want us to or not." Sarah leaned forward. "We don't want to rule the galaxy, General. We just want to live in a galaxy worth living in. One where strength is used to protect, not oppress. Where advanced technology lifts everyone up, not just the species that discovered it first." "You're insane," Craxus whispered. "The galaxy doesn't work that way. The strong always dominate. It's the law of nature." "Then we'll change nature," Elena said simply. "We've already done it once. We took our entire solar system and stepped outside of spacetime itself. We learned to manipulate matter at the quantum level. We've rewritten the laws of physics within localized areas. If we can do all that, changing the political structure of the galaxy is trivial." Silence fell across the coalition fleet. 8,000 ships, millions of crew members, all waiting to see what their leaders would decide. Finally, Craxus spoke, his voice heavy with defeat. "What guarantee do we have that you won't simply conquer us later? When you grow tired of playing the benevolent protector?" Stone's expression softened. "None. You have no guarantee except our word. But consider this, if we wanted to conquer you, we'd have done it already. Conquest requires no permission, no negotiation. The fact that we're talking instead of attacking should tell you everything you need to know about our intentions. Another long pause. Then Kraxus lowered his head in submission. The Kron Dominion accepts your terms. We will negotiate for peace. One by one the other coalition commanders followed. The Vaxxer Empire. The Hive Collective. Dozens of others. The greatest armada ever assembled surrendered without firing a shot. Your weapons will be restored once you exit human space, Stone informed them. Return to your worlds. Tell your leaders what happened here. The galaxy is changing. You can change with it or be left behind. The coalition fleet turned and began its long, humiliating journey home. On Earth, Admiral Stone watched them go. Sarah Chin stood beside him, her expression thoughtful. Do you think it will work? She asked. Do you think they'll really change? Some will, Stone replied. Some won't. But we've planted a seed. We've shown them that there's another way. The rest is up to them. And if they choose war again? Stone's jaw set firmly. Then we'll be ready. But we'll never become the monsters they fear. That's our promise to ourselves and to the galaxy. 6 months passed. The galaxy transformed in ways no one could have predicted. The Galactic Council chambers, once a symbol of unchanging authority, now hosted something unprecedented. A constitutional convention. Representatives from 112 species gathered, not just the old powers but younger civilizations that had been excluded for millennia. The Zephyr delegation had nominated humans to chair the proceedings. Elena Rodriguez stood at the central podium, a position once reserved only for High Chancellor Vorith. The old Saurian sat in the audience now, watching with complex emotions playing across his reptilian features. We gather today, Elena announced, not as conquerors and conquered, not as strong and weak, but as equals seeking a better future. The chamber that had once ridiculed humanity now listened with rapt attention. Humanity proposes the following charter, Elena continued. A holographic display showed the document in every written language known to the galaxy. First, every sentient species has inherent rights that cannot be violated. No being may be enslaved, experimented upon without consent, or treated as property. Murmurs of approval from some delegations. Uncomfortable silence from others. Second, technological advancement is not a measure of worth. A species that has just discovered fire has the same fundamental value as one that has mastered quantum mechanics. Ambassador Drex of the Kron Dominion stood. He looked diminished now, his earlier arrogance replaced by grudging respect. Ambassador Rodriguez, the Kron Dominion has operated under different principles for 10,000 years. You ask us to overturn our entire civilization structure. Yes, Elena replied simply. We ask you to evolve. As we did. The strong should protect the weak, interjected Professor Linera, her crystalline form glowing with enthusiasm. Not exploit them. The Luminar have studied humanity's proposal extensively. It is scientifically elegant, morally rigorous. We support it fully. The Zephyr representative chirped their agreement. One by one, species that had been marginalized by the old order voiced their support. The vote was called. This time the result was different. 93 species voted in favor. 19 abstained. None voted against. The old Galactic Council was dissolved. In its place arose the Confederation of Sapient Worlds, a new government structure where every species, regardless of age or power, had an equal voice. High Chancellor Vorith approached Elena after the session. For a long moment the ancient Saurian simply studied her. I underestimated your species, he said finally. 1,000 years ago, I thought humans were reckless children stumbling into a galaxy they didn't understand. I was wrong. You weren't entirely wrong, Elena admitted. We were young. We made mistakes. We still do. But we learned from them. That's what makes us dangerous. Not our weapons, but our refusal to accept that things must always be as they've always been. Vorith's scales rippled in what might have been Saurian laughter. Dangerous indeed. Will you take my position? The Confederation will need a leader. No, Elena said firmly. Humanity will have one vote, same as everyone else. We didn't come back to rule. We came back to participate. Across the galaxy the changes rippled outward. The Vaxxer Empire, facing internal pressure from its own people who had seen the battle recordings, began dismantling its slave colonies. The Kron Dominion opened diplomatic channels with species it had previously conquered. The Hive Collective, impressed by human biotechnology, traded military expansion for peaceful agricultural development. Not everyone accepted the new order peacefully. Pirate factions tried to exploit the transition period. Rogue warlords attempted to carve out independent territories. Each time, human intervention was swift and bloodless. Ships were disabled, weapons neutralized, aggressors returned home unharmed but deeply humiliated. The message was clear. In this new galaxy, violence was no longer the ultimate arbiter of disputes. On Earth, in the rebuilt city of New Geneva, a monument was unveiled. It stood 300 meters tall, visible from orbit. The sculpture showed a human hand and an alien hand clasping in partnership, surrounded by stars. The inscription read, "We disappeared as prey. We returned as equals. We stay as partners." Admiral Stone stood before the monument during its dedication ceremony, now retired from active military duty. Beside him stood Captain Chin, now Admiral Chin, commander of humanity's peacekeeping fleet. They watched as representatives from 50 different species gathered for the unveiling. "Do you think it will last?" Sarah asked him quietly. "This peace we've built?" Stone considered the question carefully. Peace is never permanent. It's something you have to choose, every day over and over again. But we've given the galaxy something it never had before, hope that things can be different. That's worth fighting for. "Fighting for peace," Sarah said with a slight smile. "There's an irony there." "The best kind," Stone replied. In orbit above Earth, the Prometheus hung in the darkness, a silent guardian. Around it, vessels from a dozen species conducted joint training exercises. Former enemies learning to work together. Former conquerors learning humility. Former victims learning strength. In the command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, technicians monitored subspace communications across the galaxy. Trade routes flourished. Cultural exchanges multiplied. Scientific collaboration reached unprecedented levels. Human technology flowed outward. Medical advances that extended lifespans, agricultural methods that ended hunger on previously barren worlds, clean energy that reversed centuries of environmental damage. And in return, the galaxy offered humanity what it had always wanted: acceptance. Not as curiosities or inferiors but as equals. Contributors to something greater than any single species. Ambassador Elena Rodriguez sat in her office at the new Confederation headquarters, reviewing proposals for joint scientific ventures. One caught her eye, a Luminar human team wanting to explore the dimensional barriers between universes. Another proposed using human phase shift technology combined with Zephyr navigation skills to map previously unreachable regions of space. A message appeared on her screen. It was from Ambassador Kelthrin of the Vaxxer Empire, the same ambassador who had gleefully announced humanity's extinction 1,000 years ago. The message was simple. "Ambassador Rodriguez, the Vaxxer Science Academy requests permission to send students to human universities. We have much to learn from you. And perhaps, in time, we can learn to be worthy of the mercy you showed us." Elena smiled and began composing her response. Outside her window, ships from 100 worlds came and went, their running lights painting the void with 1,000 colors. Humanity had vanished for 1,000 years. They had returned as apex predators. But they had chosen to be something more important than predators. They had chosen to be teachers, healers, and guardians. They had chosen to be the change they wanted to see in the galaxy. And in doing so, they had transformed not just themselves but everyone around them. The galaxy would never be the same. And that, Admiral Stone thought as he stood before the monument of partnership, watching the stars wheel overhead in their eternal dance, was exactly the point. Humanity was home. And home was better than it had ever been. Not because humans were the strongest, but because they had shown everyone else that strength without wisdom was just another form of weakness. The age of conquest was over. The age of cooperation had begun. And it all started because one species refused to accept that things had to be the way they'd always been. Humanity had returned. Not as conquerors. Not as victims. But as partners in building something greater than any empire. A galaxy worth living in.